Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the presentation of the Helena Silva Award for the European Heritage Award. The European Prize, Helena Silva, has distinguished contributions to the project and the dissemination of cultural heritage and European ideals. To start the session, I'd like to give the floor to Dr. Guilherme de Oliveira Martins, Director of the Carlos Gulbenkian Foundation. Good afternoon, everybody. The special greetings to the Minister of Culture, the President of the National Centre, the National Cultural Centre, and to the awardees. And I would like to say that Oksana Yaniv can't be present, but she will be represented by her father, who I would like to express my special greetings. And I would also like to give my special greetings to the Chargé d'Affaires of the Ukraine and all those who came here today. So allow me to give my special greetings to Dr. Emilio Rui Vilar in this establishment, which is yours. And I would like to express my special thanks. This is the 10th year of the Helena Silva Prize. At the same time, it has been 10 years since her death in August 2002. The Gulbenkian Foundation is an institution which supports this award, and together with the Europa Nostra is something which for us is a very special motive, because we are faced with a European award. This is a European award for the dissemination of cultural heritage. I would also like to thank the awardees of the Europa Nostra Award and give my special greetings to Professor Antonio Lamas, who's here present, and the President of the category of Conservation and the jury of the Europa Nostra Award. And over these last 10 years that we have been attributing these awards, I would like to mention the choreographer, Anna Teresa Kiersmaker, Family Giannotti, Bethany Hughes, Wim Wenders, Jean Patoureau, Eduardo Lourenço, Jordi Savall, Oran Pamuk, and Claudio Magris. And that is why, by recalling the memory of Helena Silva, and at the same time by stressing the importance of cultural heritage as a living reality, allow me to thank you all, and naturally say that once again, for us, it is a great honor to be here with you today. Thank you. Now I'd like to give the floor to Professor Maria Calado, the President of the National Cultural Centre. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to greet the administrator of the director of the Carlos Gulbenkian, the host of the ceremony, the Minister of Culture, and the Director of Tourism of Portugal, the President of Europa Nostra, the President of the Portuguese Press Club, members of the jury of this award, distinguished winners, and the representatives of the Portuguese projects distinguished with the European Heritage Prize, members of the National Cultural Centre and Europa Nostra. So the Helena Silva European Prize is a reference project within the Centro Nacional de Cultura. It is inspired on the living memory of Helena Silva, who on all fronts promoted culture as an engine for development and a space for freedom, creation and citizenship. Her participation was remarkable in emblematic bodies and institutions such as the European Parliament, which she was a member of Parliament, the Council of Europe, she was part of the Cultural Itineraries Committee, and she was President of the National Commission and Europa Nostra as well. So it is under the Europa Nostra, the largest civil society network in the area of cultural heritage, to which the National Cultural Centre belongs, and has the honour to officially represent in Portugal. That we are involved in some of the most relevant international projects and partnerships, promoting the Europe of culture and reinforcing the voice of citizens in the defence and enhancement of cultural heritage. This is the case of the Helena Silva European Award, which we are awarding today, and of the European Heritage Awards, which this year highlighted two Portuguese projects. One in the category of conservation, the restoration of the Convento dos Capuchos in Centro, and another in the category of the involvement and awareness of citizens in the Museu da Aldeia, da Sociedade Artística e Musical dos Pozos in Leiria. So it is worthwhile highlighting the important role of Snežka Kvadvileg-Mihailović, the Secretary General of Europa Nostra, for her energy and permanent involvement in all activities. And also, unfortunately, she can't be here with us today, and she sends her greetings to one and all. And I would also like to thank Professor Antonio Lamas, who accepted our challenge to chair the international jury of the European Heritage Awards, and to Rui Volar, who accepted on behalf of Portugal to be part of the board of Europa Nostra as well. So this prize was created by the National Cultural Centre and is awarded annually to a European citizen whose career has been distinguished by the dissemination, defence and promotion of European culture, has already been mentioned. We carry out this project in partnership with other institutions, the Portuguese Press Club and the Carlos Gulbenkian Foundation. They are partners whom we hold in high esteem. To me, we'd like to express our gratitude. We thank these institutions in the person of their representatives. The award has the involvement and financial support of the public sector, the Ministry of Culture, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Tourism of Portugal, but also from the private sector, the Carlos Gulbenkian Foundation, which is both an active partner and a patron, and to all of them we would like to express our thanks. To the Ministry of Culture for sharing this vision of cultural heritage in which memory and contemporary creation are inseparable. To the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for believing in the role of a non-governmental organisation in the international representation of Portugal. To Tourism Portugal for its strategic vision of valuing heritage and culture as tourist resources. And we are all still counting on you. Thank you. The prize is awarded by an international jury made up of relevant personalities for their curriculum and activities in the field of culture and communication. We owe the award and the qualification of the prize to their prestige, knowledge, rigour and permanent involvement. On behalf of the National Cultural Centre and also as president of the jury of this award, I express our profound gratitude. And that is why I would like to thank them all. And a special gratitude goes to PTS, but Francisco Pinto Balsamão, Helena Subotic, Mariana Tardal, João David Nunes, Guilherme de Oliveira Martins. And so it is up to them to every year tell us who to give this distinction. This year, the award highlights the contribution of music and performing arts and the relations between people and communities. It distinguishes the maestro Oksana Liniv, who unfortunately for unforeseen reasons is not here with us, but who accompanies us. And she has a great depth of musical understanding and committed to supporting young musicians and also to the development of classical music in Ukraine. She is one of the figures of the cultural and artistic landscape today. On the occasion of the 10th award of the prize, the jury highlighted the contribution for the reflection on the future and gave special recognition to Jana Milosevic, director, writer, founder and director of the Independent Theatre of Belgrade, whose mission is to counteract significant artistic creation with destruction and violence. The presentation of each of them falls to Maestro Joanna Carneiro, to whom I would like to thank, and Professor Helena, to whom I thank beforehand. Finally, special thanks go to the President of the Republic for the way in which, over the years, he has accompanied the Helena da Silva Award and the impossibility of participating in person in the ceremony. He left us with a significant message. Thank you very much, one and all. Next, we have the honor to hear the Minister of Culture, Pedro Adão e Silva. So, the director of the Cultural Bentham, Caro Guilherme Oliveira Martins, the president of the National Cultural Centro, and Professor Maria Collado, ladies and gentlemen. And so the awards are always an opportunity to invoke the memory and to keep the memory alive of those who made this award famous. And so I would like to point out the memory of a woman who was unique, who worked in a great generation of Catholic intellectuals, and had the civic courage to oppose the dictatorship with Antonio Sada Batista in Bragança, Peter Taman, and others who created the different journals and publications that and a number of initiatives that were within the reach of the panorama of the 60s in Portugal. And we are maybe a month ago from the time that we celebrate the 50 years of the number of events that make up the vigil of the Capella de Beata, which explains the final erosion of the regime, and finally will be a very important moment in the commemorations of the 50 years of our democracy in December and in January. And so it is a number of intellectuals who had a great understanding that was wide and broad in all areas of knowledge. Helena da Silva specifically combined a curiosity as a journalist, a cultural a journalist, and with broad horizons and the historical depth of the defensor of the national heritage. She was a woman in a predominantly masculine world, but she was never intimidated by this. After the 25th of April democracy, she had the energy and she was devoted to the creation of the National Cultural Centre, and then she is already watching UNESCO has already been mentioned here. And another important thing, she had a political commitment also in democracy, and later she was an MEP for PSD. And so I would like to say that I remember the unexpected news of her early death, and I remember, I didn't know her personally, but I remember the vital energy and the age that she had when she died. I will think that by recognizing personality who disseminated culture every year and European values, this award preserves the memory of Helena da Silva. And a community and a political community also exists because it keeps the experience of those who lived before us and was aware of what has been in the past. And so the defense of heritage shows the experience of communities over generations, the memory that is not forgotten. And it is true that this passage of the testimonial shows that there is something that persists. And so often we think about culture in terms of major works, but culture is also, or I would say essentially, at the end of the day, a social attachment, which is which brings us together and allows us to participate in our collective life. And that is why I think that we should face culture not as only a part of the formal education in the traditional sense of the word, to create general knowledge, but not as a mere entertainment, but as a central element of citizenship. And that is why culture and democracy should go hand in hand. And I think that's an example of the life of and career of Helena Silva, and I would like to call your attention to this historical career, and the events of the Capella do Gatto are a sign of this relationship, this close relationship between culture and citizenship and democracy. So this distinction around the dissemination of cultural heritage reinforces the idea of defending the heritage as the most important exercise for the memory of what we are. That is, as an identity, and which is very important, and as diversity. Because a community that is alive is permanently renewed and is not only what it was. Culture means preservation and the creation between preservation. And so to use the past in order to together build new things. And that is why this prize, and that is how I interpret it, the list of winners that Guilherme de Oliveira reminded us has a rather broad and is not, we don't and every year the prize goes to very different people in literature, music, visual arts, television or cinema or music, as happens this year. It's very interesting, and this has already been mentioned, that this is an award that is born from an initiative of civil society, but the private entities and the state and the Ministry of Culture and Economy have joined this because it is this a complementary relationship between civil society, the private and the state, that we can prepare development of cultural policy in Portugal. The historical circumstances are very unique this year, and sadly so, since Europe and Austria was founded in '63. This is the first time that we have the first invasion within Europe of a European democracy and of a sovereign nation by another. And it's at this time the celebration of the values that make us co-citizens of Europe, and that is why we must evoke the memory of those who were killed in the brutal invasion of Ukraine by Russia. And I would also say that faced with the circumstances that we're experiencing, it becomes clearer and clearer that Europe is just not a complement. No, it is a manifestation, essential manifestation of life and the dignity of human beings. My congratulations to the award winners, and a very special thanks to the National Cultural Centre and the Europa Nostra, as to remind us, as T.S. Eliot said, that culture is what makes life worth living. Thank you.
We now begin the second part of this ceremony dedicated to the European Heritage Europa Nostra Awards. This year, the 20th anniversary of the awards, 30 initiatives from 18 countries have been distinguished. Among the winners are the Convent of Capuchos in Sintra, in the category Conservation and Adaptation to New Uses, and the Museum in the Village project in the category Citizen Engagement and Awareness. Before we watch the presentation of these two projects, Pete Jaspet, Deputy President of Europa Nostra, will tell us about this initiative.
Dear Minister, dear presidencies of the Centro Cultural, of the Gulbenkian Foundation, and dear guests, dear friends, first of all, of the memory of Helena Silva, and all friends of cultural heritage. It's as Vice President of Europa Nostra and member of the jury of the Helena Silva Award, I'm honored to address you at the occasion of the 10th edition of the Helena Silva Award, and I do this as proud partner of the Centro Nacional de Cultura, the Clube Português de Empresa, and Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation. I want to thank and congratulate them for having been organizing in this great qualitative way, that's their personal way, this annual ceremony all over these 10 years. Thank you for all the work you have been doing in this, and congratulations. But I am also particularly happy that they have profited of this event to integrate tonight a tribute to the Portuguese winners of the European Heritage Awards, Europa Nostra Awards 2020. Europa Nostra is the European leading civil society organization for the conservation, restoration, safeguarding, and reuse of cultural heritage, be it man-made or nature-made. We have been rewarding excellence in the cultural heritage sector over about 45 years, but in 2002, the European Commission wanted also to promote and stimulate themselves more actively, the care for cultural heritage. They launched a call for a partner. They were looking for somebody who would organize such a campaign with them. We won that competition, and since then, every 4 years, we are again appointed. So we are doing this now for almost 20 years. So this is quite important as European award, 20 years. And this has become, let's say, since then, the most prominent awards for the European heritage community. It has become a kind of European Oscar for tangible and intangible heritage. In those 20 years, we received 3,516 entries, 3,516 out of 39 countries, European countries, for the whole Europe. So it's not just the Commission, the EU, but the great Europe. And we awarded 588 winners, of which 21 came from Portugal. And the two we are going to give a tribute tonight are of the selection of 2022, so this year, and they have been chosen among 31 entries. So 31 and 2 of Portugal. Not entries, winners. There were 31 winners, and 2 of them came from Portugal. The main results of this huge yearly European campaign for the sites is increased networking and professional opportunities, increased footfall or visitors to the sites themselves, unique funding and development opportunities for each, and for each of them, local, regional, and European visibility. These are 4 main added values once you are elected, once you are a winner. Our president, Herman Partzinger, said that this year's awards winners are powerful examples of how heritage reconnects us with nature, how heritage helps create a sense of belonging and a sense of place. And it is an integral building block, cultural heritage is an integral building block in developing circular economy that supports sustainable and inclusive way of life. I think that the two Portuguese 2022 winners that we are honoring today are perfect examples for our president's conclusion. I just named them. Museum in the Village was an award winner in the category Citizens Engagement and Awareness Raising. This cultural program aimed at people over 65, for people over 65, I'm one of them, and succeeded in bringing museum professionals, artists, volunteers, and locals together through arts and heritage. They are pioneers in demonstrating the clear relationship between culture heritage, and health and well-being. And that's something we are not aware enough. Even the European Commission now, 2 weeks ago, has launched a brochure to explain how cultural heritage is important for health and for well-being. And they have now made a point that in the future they should more focus on these two values. It's not about economy, it's about health and about well-being. The convent of the Capuchos in Sintra, the second one, won the award in the category Conservation and Adaptive Reuse. The jury was impressed by the high-quality restoration of this monastic complex out of the 16th century, using traditional techniques, but also innovative solutions. It's more remarkable, so it's a remarkable example how you respect humble and sensitive heritage. It's not about big, prestigious castles, but humble and sensitive heritage. They found a successful way of reconnecting local residents with their heritage, and as far as I know, or could read, all was funded by the tourist revenue generated by early restoration of the Parques de Sintra. It's very important that also tourism can be, not always, but can be a support for cultural heritage. At the end of September, in the wonderful Opera of Prague, both winners could present their projects to their colleagues, winners of this year's awards. And they got their award from the hands of our president, Herman Parziger, and the European Commissioner, Mrs. Maria Gabriel. At this occasion, she said that culture is our oxygen. And I must say, I was touched by that word. Culture and cultural heritage are our oxygen. Everybody understands that it's something vital. It's oxygen, and that oxygen makes us alive. It helps to keep heritage alive throughout the crisis, whether it be the COVID crisis, whether it be the economic crisis, that helps us to keep it alive. It's a powerful driver that brings our society together in a common sense of belonging. She called upon us, and I quote, "Let us make the best possible use of our cultural heritage as an amazing asset for the future at local, regional, national, and European level." That was her quote. And I can hardly imagine better examples than the two Portuguese winners of the truth and the power of that statement. Both of them deserve our full appreciation and support, and our warmest congratulations. I hope that this may inspire many other Portuguese heritage heroes to send in new, wonderful applications for next year's selection. This has to be done before the 5th of December. So there is a possibility we count upon entries before the 5th of December. And because I was asked to speak as introduction for these awards, I just add now a few words of appreciation as well for the winner of what we as jury has decided, Mrs. Oksana Liniv, for the great function, the great thing that she has been done. And so that was for us, let's say, also in the actual situation of Ukraine, also fantastic that we could give this sign as Europa Nostra to the world how culture, again, is so vital and that she was the voice of this. But we were even so fortunate that we had another, among the other candidates, there was Mrs. Mihailovic, who really came with the work she has been doing on theater, on thinking, on standing up in difficult society in a, let's say, a dissonant world, or she was a dissonant voice. She stood up, and we were so happy that we as jury could also valorize this. I just want to say this as in addition to what I had to say, and I must also say that, and it was said, I heard that Sneska, our Secretary General, who is used to be here and to even do the presentation, couldn't be here, but we got the nice voice of Joao behind, who is doing her work. So may I thank you for your attention and hope that, let's say, this evening is a bright evening for the Helena Vaz Award da Silva. Thank you.
Passamos agora à apresentação dos projetos premiados. Museu na Aldeia. Toma a palavra a doutora Gabriela Salles da Rocha, museóloga responsável pelo desenvolvimento do projeto Museu na Aldeia.
Boa tarde a todos e a todas. Eu gostaria de começar agradecendo a oportunidade de estar aqui apresentando um pouco mais sobre o projeto Museu na Aldeia. Essa é uma iniciativa de intervenção artística e social que une museus e aldeias de 26 municípios portugueses com o objetivo de reduzir o isolamento social, mas também de promover a coesão territorial através das artes. Atuamos junto de pessoas com mais de 65 anos de idade, que vivem em regiões de baixa densidade demográfica e que vivem em locais, na sua maioria, em ambientes rurais. Junto com os nossos parceiros, nós identificamos as comunidades e, através das interações e das informações que são levantadas, o museu seleciona uma obra, um objeto da sua coleção e leva até o coração da aldeia. Após essa interação com o objeto do museu, a comunidade, então, cria um novo objeto artístico com base naquilo que eles consideram mais relevantes para partilhar sobre a sua aldeia e sobre si mesmos. Finalmente, as comunidades vão até o museu e ocupam o seu local de destaque, inaugurando e apresentando a sua obra coletiva no museu. De forma muito sucinta, é assim que o projeto se desenvolve. Mas hoje não quis aqui falar como é o passo a passo do projeto. Nós achamos que é muito mais importante a gente partilhar com vocês as coisas que a gente viveu, as experiências vividas. Isso, para nós, é muito mais importante. O que o museu leva até a aldeia? E o que a aldeia leva até o museu? Aqui, o museu levou uma escultura alusiva ao Milagre de São Martinho. Para quem não conhece a história do Milagre de São Martinho, de forma muito rápida, fala sobre o poder de um gesto solidário, que esse poder tem, o poder pode até transformar um tempo chuvoso e trazer de volta o sol. E esta obra ficou no mercado do peixe e fez parte daquele espaço por quase 2 meses. Inspirado nessa obra e também criando uma relação com o seu próprio território, as participantes do projeto, daquela comunidade, decidiram, então, criar o seu sol. E, para isso, elas recorreram a camisas de milho cultivadas no quintal das próprias participantes. E ali vocês conseguem ver o resultado da inauguração dessa obra da comunidade. Outra experiência interessante foi quando uma obra de quase 3 toneladas ou mais foi instalada na entrada de uma das aldeias. Esta obra acabou por revelar um ponto muito interessante para as pessoas poderem apreciar a paisagem local. Olha a expressão desse senhor. Até por trás da máscara, a gente consegue sentir a alegria dele. E foi interessante porque, quando chegou o momento dessa obra retornar até o museu, a comunidade não gostou muito da ideia. E a obra acabou ficando por um pouco mais de tempo, mas, obviamente, teve que retornar. E, assim, aquela comunidade decidiu criar o seu próprio banco para ocupar aquele espaço. E está aqui o resultado. Esta pequena imagem não corresponde à beleza da paisagem daquela comunidade. E quando a comunidade decide que a obra nasce e permanece naquela aldeia. Aqui o resultado foi um tapete de cerca de 7 metros pintado numa das ruas dessa aldeia, e que, quem quiser, pode ir lá visitar a comunidade, porque o tapete ainda está lá. E tivemos também o caso de uma obra que viajou mais de 100 quilômetros e entrou na casa das pessoas. Esta varanda que vocês estão a ver, ela não só recebeu uma obra de arte contemporânea de um museu, como ela também se transformou num espaço comunitário onde os participantes do projeto passaram a se encontrar.
Community space, and people met around it and developed their activities. After all these experiences, what truly I find fascinating in this project as a museologist, after a long period during which our doors were closed to the public, these people had a truly unique experience. Here, the museum experience went beyond mere appreciation, and it became action. These people admired themselves, they sang, they danced inside the museum space. And they can say that they were part of that space. And that moment was part of them. Thank you again. I'm Gabriela da Rocha. I'm a member of SAMP, the Artistic Musical Society of Pozos. We are located in Leiria. We target communities, different artistic languages, and for 150 years we pay attention to what is happening in the world. Of course, I would like to thank all those who have funded us and the representatives of the 26 municipalities that we invited to be here, and you're part of the magic. So thank you very much, and I wish you all an excellent evening.
In order to represent the project of the rehabilitation project of the Convent dos Capuzes, we invite architect Jean-Souza Rico, technical director of the Built Heritage of Centro Parks.
Dr. Guilherme Oliveira Martins, a Dra. Maria Calado, a Dr. Rui Vilar e ao Professor António Lamas. Aqui um bocadinho para trás. Em primeiro lugar, agradecer a presença e a oportunidade para apresentar a conservação e restauro do Convento dos Capuzes.
The restoration of the Convent dos Capuzes, and so we can show you our story. The Capuzes Convent is in Centro, in the north the hill, and it's in the oldest part, where it is built together with nature, in the middle of nature, and with an intrinsic relationship between the natural heritage and the built heritage, which is perfectly well integrated in the Centro Hills. It came to us in a very poor state of repair, with a great loss of heritage, and it was built in 1560, and it was inhabited by Franciscan friars, and when the religious orders were forbidden, it was then bought by Francis Cook, and it was integrated in the property of Montserrat, and it was used as a romantic ruin by the owners, Francis Cook, and throughout the 20th century it was bought by the Portuguese state, and in recent years it was totally abandoned and had great losses. For example, tiles were stolen, and this had to be put an end to. And so we built up this project, restoration rehabilitation project. So the conservation works in 2019 reached a relevant point because there was an integrated strategy of conservation was created, and where we could create three main areas of intervention in the facades and in the integrated heritage, in the infrastructures, the support infrastructures to the visits and the interpretation of the building. There was a strategy which sought to find a methodology, but also to define the objectives of the use of the building. So what did we use in, what do we want to use this in years to come? And so what type of museum and of interpretation of the space that we are going to offer our visitors. And so this ability to relate this building with the local community and the perspectives that the local community had of the convent itself. It was also always used by the community quite often, freely, and so as a relationship with the residents of Centro, a very close relationship, and it was very relevant. And those guidelines are very relevant too. So we defined the guidelines of the intervention. And so here we considered these relevant because these intervention principles were defined beforehand, before the projects, before the work started, and were based on, and they were the basis of our actions and our decisions, and that is during the project phase and during the works themselves. And so many decisions have to be taken immediately during this phase, and in order to take these decisions, fully aware and of the situation, guarantee the quality of them, we need a number of, we had to carry out a great deal of research, historical research, and if we define, for example, as a guideline that we want to guarantee the possibility of our visitors to know the history of the building, and so when during the archaeological excavations, we could decide to leave some of these excavations open, and so that the Capuchin convent had other formats, which is not the same one. Or, for example, when we did some drilling in the walls, we wanted to know exactly how the building was before, and so we can actually make a decision and with campaigns in the 20th century, we can find out what its original colour was, which was grey. And these decisions are decisions which are taken during the project phase, some of them during the works phase, but they are taken in accordance with the guidelines that we decided and we want to define. before we started work on it. In order to manage to enable these works, we had to carry out historical research. We're talking about convent with very little information that we have received up to date because of its characteristics, which are very different from a palace, where the royal family, for example, researched and gave information for future memory of the use of the space. And this convent was much more complex, and we had to find out about the use and its original configuration on our own. And so we characterized the materials and the state of repair. For example, here we showed the mapping of the materials, conservation materials, and so these maps are very precise, and so this technical image has the rigorous characterization of the location, and will be able to inform us about the methodology and about the archaeological dig and the digs that existed before the work. And so we made archaeological studies, and they defined and helped us to define the project. And so this factor, this decision, has also led us to reduce the risk of interventions and the risk of a surprise or of the unexpected. So with all this information we had, with the guidelines, the studies, the surveys, and interventions methodology, we started the works phase. The works phase had a component on the roofs, which was very interesting. And so we had to alter some support areas of the roofs in order to support some of the walls and to safeguard the convent. And on the facades we had to work through wall surveys in terms of the colour and its rehabilitation. And in terms of conservation and restoration, I would like to mention the coverings. The coverings, we have relevant tiles, some of which had been stolen, and so we had to fill in the gaps, and we had to establish the glaze. And for some of these elements that we presented here in the slide, we had to carry out our own research with autonomous teams who, during the work, they could carry it on with the research and worked on the altar, and had to be recovered in order to bring back dignity to the church of the convent. And so they have the porch, and it was treated, cleaned, and it was placed to be maintained, associated, to have a maintenance associated with the convent. So I would also like to mention that this project was only possible because the Centro park has an in-house team, and so they work on conservation, state conservation, civil conservation. And so here we have a team from the Centro park who work every day in order to maintain the heritage in a good state of repair, and we work through a multi-annual maintenance plan. So we planned the works sequentially, and so we have to have a maintenance plan which will last for a couple of years, and that will include all the specialities. So what does this allow? This allows us to anticipate actions to be carried out, to create a sequence of maintenance works, and this maintenance is going to allow the materials to last longer and thus prevent degradation and future works of this scale. Now, to conclude, I would like to say this plan allows us to anticipate costs and allows us to see exactly what interventions, what actions must be carried out over a period of up to a period of 5 years. So I would like to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to present our methodologies, and I would like to invite you to come to the convent to see it. Thank you.
Tem agora início a terceira e última parte desta cerimónia.
Now, the third and last part of this ceremony begins the awarding of the Helena da Silva European Award. For the 10th edition of the prize, the jury decided to award a special recognition to Diana Milošević, Serbian artist, founder and director of the DA Theatre, Research Center for Culture and Social Transformations in Belgrade. To introduce her, we invited Professor Irina Subotic as a member, honorary member of Europa Nostra, and an eminent.
Good evening. Dear members of the Helena da Silva family, dear dignitaries and excellencies, dear Mr. Liniv and Diana Milošević, dear friends of Helena da Silva and friends of cultural heritage. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to present on behalf of our international jury the reasons why Diana Milošević has got a special recognition for 30 years of her committed activities on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the prestigious Helena da Silva European Award. The candidature was submitted to our jury by Europa Nostra Serbia. Diana has always considered art as a space of freedom, together with her team, and this is substantially independent, highly professional teamwork. First of all, with Jadranka Anđelić, the co-founder of DA Theatre, with performers Ivana Milenović-Popović, Milica Petrović, Zoran Vasiljević, Evgenija Eškina, Ivan Nikolić, manager Nataša Novaković, author of stage design and visual materials Neša Paripović, musicians Nebojša Ignjatović and Ljubica Damčević, to name some of her team. Diana has created a large number of performances and theater plays based upon actual, general, up-to-date humanistic themes and problems frameworks. But at the same time, she continues to find inspiration for her work from various historical avant-garde movements which led the world of culture since the beginnings of the 20th century towards the new understanding of the arts in a broader sense, meaning arts not as the nice decoration of pure pleasure only, but as the essential and basic contribution to social and humanistic approaches, circumstances, and destinies of people in modern life. DA Theatre is using graphic and stage design based upon the neo-avant-garde tendencies underlying the links between theater and visual arts. At the same time, it's influenced by Dadaist struggle to extreme freedom for expression, cosmopolitan and supranational approaches and common problems that are prevailing nowadays, especially among the young population. Dah means breath, spirit, movement of the air, Diana explains. For us, it means also to gather strength, to persevere, to be spiritual, to create. Backwards of Dah, D-A-H, the word is had, H-A-D, or hates, the underword of ancient Greek mythology, meaning that we can, through our work, also explore dark, painful, or hidden sides of ourselves in our society and the world. Therefore, her statement is important. When we founded our theater in 1991, the civil war in Yugoslavia had already started. Our world has been changed in a way we never expected it. From the very beginning of our work, we had to face hard questions. What the role and the meaning of the theater are. What is the responsibility and duty of artists in time of darkness, violence, and suffering? Can art, specifically theater, be a tool for peace? These questions that come out of our experience of living in a war-tormented country shaped our performances and our future life in the theater. We realized that the only way to oppose destruction is to create. So our performances, having for their main theme the relationship between the individual and the history, also became a powerful celebration of life. The problems that DACH Theater and Diana Milosevic are dealing with obviously are not only local, in spite of the fact that citizens in Serbia are facing huge challenges, which are difficult to be solved. Many of these problems are characteristic for modern societies, and therefore, as global, they are understandable for a wider public. This theater, with dance, movement, gesture, words, and music, uses the language understandable to every spectator because it's based upon the vision of the new beginning for the creation of a more humanistic world with critical observations to the acute deviations of political and social tendencies, global economic crisis, and unsolved ecological questions everywhere on our planet. I will try to quote just a few of Diana's and her team's subjects treated in many plays performed not only in Serbia, but almost all around the world on various non-traditional places, like spaces in nature, parks, city buses or beaches, streets, and in front of walls. Contrary to the wall, generally meaning the Berlin Wall, their performance may be explained as how the street and the wall may become the arena not for differences and separation, but places for promotion and dialogue and understanding of differences, encounters, and art expressions. Diana got an exceptional reception due to her courageous art form, specific theater language fulfilled with profound human attitude and new spiritual ideas. After struggling for pacifism during the wars, led in our names during the 90s in Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, and in Kosovo, with the still unknown total number of lives lost during those wars, and particularly the position and the fate of many women, DACH Theater approached the problems of interculturalism as a counterweight to continuous nationalisms, frequent changes of political life that caused the loss of identity of the entire nations and social traumas in this changing world. Then student protests, migration tragedies, monetary policies, right-wing streams, climate changes, art and human rights, rights for kids, and so many other topics. Here is one of Diana's statements about the performance documents of the times. It reminded us about beauty and hope in the times of terror. It talked about the human spirit and the necessity for art, for creation, for forgiveness, and it hinted at the importance of storing memories and cherishing the child inside us. This is why I believe that the play was responsible for keeping many of us sane and alive during these incredibly difficult times. Through that performance, I found I was able to forgive and understand the world. DACH Theater is not-for-profit and non-governmental organization that survives financially through grants and income generated by its activities. Their activities have benefited from invaluable support of Creative Europe and Erasmus programs, Heinrich Böll Stiftung, Cultural Contact Austria, IPA programs, Goethe Institute, TRAG, and the Helena Shantish Foundations, Grandland, the Free Theatre, Pro Helvetia International, Federation for Theatre Researchers, etc. Among others, the support came for the famous theatre director Eugenio Barba from Odin Theatre, who stated, "I have witnessed the performances, that they are celebrating life, and I was thinking about the courage, dignity, persistence, art delicacy, and dark matter that transgress the limits of art. Like a mystery, I was watching the way the actresses dream and how they fly across the window right to the history." On the other side, Dennis Burnett, American drama and theater professor, wrote that DACH is one of the most successful and most innovative theater groups in the contemporary history, and asking what makes DACH theater so exceptional, he has his answer: the passion and new forms of expression that they have introduced exceed in many ways a pure performance. We are very happy that for the first time, a special recognition of the Helena Vaz de Silva Award goes to the region of the Western Balkans, to Serbia, namely to such an extraordinary personality like Diana Milosevic. On behalf of our jury, I wish to convey our sincere congratulations to Diana and her DACH theater, whose experiences are particularly relevant today when the war came back to Europe, this time to Ukraine, native country of our laureate. Warm congratulations to dear Oksana Liniv, and also my congratulations to two marvelous winners of Europa Nostra and European Union Award for this year. Thank you for your attention.
Convidamos Diana Milosevic a dirigir-se ao palco para receber esta distinção, que será entregue por Susana Macedo, do Turismo de Portugal, e por Guilherme de Oliveira Martins.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, esteemed Minister of Culture, dear trustee of the Kaluz Gulbenkian Foundation, dear representatives of the Centro Nacional de Cultura, Europa Nostra, and Clube Português de Imprensa, esteemed jury members, dear Portuguese laureates of the Europa Nostra Awards, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I would first like to say that I'm deeply honored and grateful for receiving this special recognition, which bears the name of a very special woman, Helena Vaz da Silva. I'm also honored and humbled that my theater company and me are included in the circle of great artists and thinkers of our times through this special recognition, standing among those who felt obliged to create in the face of uncertainty and stand up for the values of humanism. My warm congratulations go to the winner of the Helena Vaz da Silva Award, the Ukrainian conductor Oksana Liniv, with desire for her career to continue to blossom and her people to be safe again in peace and prosperity. The special award I'm honored to receive, the recognition I'm honored to receive today, is given for the defense of European culture and its values. What a moment to receive such an award, when we need to remember more than ever what European values are, as the world as we know it is dissipating. Firstly, I would like to emphasize the right to freedom, to free opinion, to free speech, as well as the right to diversity. All of these rights contributed greatly to the European cultural landscape that we all cherish and that is rapidly changing not always for the better. However, there is a right that is not talked about so often and which is very dear and important to me. That is the right to hope. We live in difficult times with the shadow of a bloody war taking place in Europe, in Ukraine. So we have to ask ourselves, where is the kernel of hope in the face of tragic events that are changing the image of the world as we know it? I deeply believe that the hope is present exactly in the spark of the human spirit that can be seen in all the marvelous things that people have done and are doing through art and culture. As the famous historian Howard Zinn said, having hope in dark times is not just foolishly romantic, because human history is not only a history of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, kindness. So we are not just nostalgically driven to create in the face of tragedy, we are obliged to carry on the spark of hope and spread it throughout the world, especially in the times of gloom. Therefore, our common struggle to maintain European heritage and European values, despite all those forces in our societies that work against them, is actually a struggle for hope. And again, I'm not referring to hope as something romantic. To cherish hope in dark times is subversive. Hope is a revolutionary act. Theater, the art form I work in, really exists only while it is performed. When the theater performance is over, it is gone. It remains only in the memory of the spectators and the memory of its performers. But the energy of the thoughts and emotions produced by a theater performance continues to live in us and to transform us. Through theater and art, we are able to move people intellectually, emotionally, spiritually. While the performance is going on, if it really touches us, we say it moves us. And in fact, through our mirror neurons, our observing bodies do move, our spines move, and thus theater leaves a visceral imprint, so we may say that it influences us even physically. Theater has the ability to ask difficult questions without creating sides, but rather creating a space for reflection. In my language, Serbian, the word for theater is pozorište. The root of the word pozor means attention, so the meaning is that theater is the place of attention. To do theater is to be awoken, to be alert, and to have attention. All of this oppose censorship. Theater allows us, even when we are not able to use words that censors would like to control, to use physical action, visual language, and sound, and thus to speak in a language that transposes censorship. Unfortunately, by now, we know that we humans are often not so good at sharing space. Theater offers us the possibility to share the space, to be together, even if coming from very different, sometimes adversary sides. And the space of coming together becomes invaluable in times of ever-growing divisions, isolation, solitude. Theater and art have the unique ability to sustain contradiction without the impulse of giving simple answers and one-dimensional ideas. To quote Howard Zinn again, art is eternally disturbing, permanently revolutionary. The artist is what the Germans call ein Rüttler, an upsetter of the established order. This is rather recognition that in modern society there is enormous pressure to create a one-dimensional mind among masses of people, and this requires upsetting. Our societies need healing by facing the truth. We cannot heal if we do not open the wound to clean it. With all its artistic potentials, this is possible to achieve through theater, which sometimes needs to place its focus on unwanted truths, painful memories, and difficult events. The healing process of a society starts at that very moment. When the times are dark, what keeps us sane is the ability to imagine different situations, different outcomes. And this is what we could achieve through theater, possibility to imagine new futures and consciously decide that we will not accept what is happening. To consciously choose hope over despair, that is the first step towards the transformative action that we need so dearly today. Thank you.
Imati nade u mračnim vremenima nije samo budalasto romantično. Jer ljudska istorija nije samo istorija okrutnosti, već takođe i istorija saosećanja, žrtvovanja, hrabrosti, dobrote.
Ono što mi izdvojimo iz ove kompleksne istorije odredit će naše živote. Ako budemo videli samo ono najgore, to će uništiti našu sposobnost da bilo šta činimo.
Ako pamtimo ona vremena i mesta, a bilo ih je toliko mnogo, gde su se ljudi blistavo ponašali, to nam daje snagu da delamo i u najmanju ruku da okrenemo svet u suprotnom pravcu.
I ako delamo, makar i najmanje moguće, ne moramo da čekamo neku utopijsku budućnost. Budućnost je beskonačan sled sadašnjosti. I ako živimo sada, onako kako mislimo da ljudska bića treba da žive, uprkos svemu što je loše oko nas, samo je po sebi čudesna pobeda.
Revolucija počinje kad narod služi vlastima, a ne vlast narodu. A vi? Služite, građani. Revolucija počinje kada se bez gladnih ne može kupiti novcem sitih, a vi ste gladni građani. Revolucija počinje kad umetnici prestanu da budu kukavice i progovore na sav glas. A vi ćutite, građani. Revolucija počinje kada su zabranjene slobodna misao i slobodna reč. A vi ste zabranjeni, građani.
Hallo! Guten Tag, alles! Was bin ich? Nicole! Ksenofobija? Od grčkih reči ksenos, što znači stranac, i phobos, što znači strah, je snažna, iracionalna mržnja i nepoverenje prema strancima, njihovim običajima, vrednostima i navikama. Ich komme aus Dresden. U Vranju ich finde meine Liebe. Sviram bubnje u jednom punk bandu.
Svaki dan i svaki tren
tražila sam da se bude lutala, preživljavala s tom strahom, ali Franka nije bilo. Čuvaj ga, molim.
Now we're here to pay tribute to the winner of the Helena Silva European Prize 2022, Oksana Liniv, who, unfortunately for personal reasons, cannot be with us, will be the winner of this year. And so we will watch the recorded message sent us, and her father, Yaroslav Liniv, will receive the prize on her behalf. Beforehand, we are honoured to have with us Director Joanna Carneiro, who we invite to come on stage to present the prize winner. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'd like to greet everybody here present, especially Mr. Pedro Gomes Silva, Minister of Culture, Maria Calada, and Dr. Guilherme de Oliveira Martins, Director of the VCG, who I would like to thank the invitation to be here present in this extremely important ceremony, and in my special words go to the winners of the prizes today. And so my first words go to Oksana, and in this case, in the person of her father, Mr. Lviv. Very much privilege. And so thank you very much for this honor. And so we in the musical community and all those who are with us very pleased about. And so the first thing I'd like to highlight is the first dimension I would like to highlight is of an artist. I would like to say that I have an interest here because conductors have a limitation. It is that we rarely meet. In fact, an orchestra has many people, but has a director, and it's very rare for us to meet each other and reflect together. And so I was actually thinking, oh great, today I'm going to meet my colleague, Oksana Lviv, and I feel that's a great pity that I don't, but I'm very pleased to be able to be with her, to praise her. But it's not difficult to praise somebody like Oksana. I would like to say that I have never seen Oksana personally. I know her through her music and her musical example. The first time I remember seeing Oksana conducting an orchestra was not in a contact, but in the trials in Baviera. And she was rehearsing Mendelssohn. And so I was amazed in this rehearsal, and others who met Oksana saw her direct Puccini, Wagner, Glinka, and other composers. For us in music, it's very difficult to describe directors who make words, because in words rather, it's not the first person to say this, but of a composer that we all know, Gustav Mahler already said that when he was asked to talk about music, he would say, if I managed to convey everything I want through words, I wouldn't be a composer. And so quite often when we describe music and those who make it and we feel it, so these words of Mahler so deeply. So I would describe the words of Oksana's work in her own words. Today I read an interview that Oksana gave to Luciana in the Expresso, and I was asking her about being a woman in the world of men, and she said that one's gender doesn't matter, and his success came from creativity, to musical talent and professionalism. And for me, to her words I admire. When I attend her rehearsals and concerts, the words that inspire me are, in addition to talent, in addition to professionalism, creativity, are preparation, imagination, and a charisma that Oksana has that we can see immediately. And more than this, there is a characteristic in Oksana that I find in artists who inspire me most. So when I have very little inspiration, I try and look to see what they're doing. And I believe that this characteristic comes from their essence. And I dare to quote and to evoke another director who, as Oksana is associated with, I believe it was an assistant, Kirill Petrenko, who, when he was asked about what he tried in one of his very rare interviews, when he was asked about what he was looking for into the rehearsals, what he was trying to discover in music or in a concert, he would say, I just try and do what is right. And so when I see Oksana and I go to Oksana, I feel there's a very simple and such a profound characteristic, which is what an artist has. As a conductor, her work speaks for herself. And not only the way she conducts, but around the orchestras that she conducts, so the younger ones, the older ones, the concert halls she plays in, and so these all this legacy is very inspiring. And even though she's still young, it is obviously that she's very inspiring. And I was talking about doing what is right, as Kirill Petrenko and Oksana Lviv say. And so I would like to move on to the second praise or tribute I want to give. Oksana Lviv seeks in every gesture to do good in music, but also to do good with music. And once again, quoting Oksana said in her words, I asked her about the role of artists, and she said the following. At the beginning of the war, the question was immediately asked whether or not art is political, whether it can be outside politics. This is very complex, because the answer is, at the same time, yes and no. When we look at the history of culture and study the works and the context in which they were created, we see that the great actress, Mozart or Beethoven, acted within a society sometimes a few steps ahead of it. And it is amazing how they were able to see the future or great cataclysms. I think that great works were born to be strong messages or warnings to society. Messages, they didn't only were there to entertain, they are channels to communicate something important. Today, art and artists continue to play that role. These were Oksana's words when she was asked about the role of artists. And allow me once again to subscribe to her words and add my own. And my words of praise to Oksana. And so when I hear Oksana talking about this, I remember our own Esat Kerosh. And he said that art is everything. Today we heard about culture as oxygen, and allow me to say that art is everything. As Esa said, if we ever remember who we are today, it in this room, it is because Oksana and other artists have perpetuated a work of art or through art. There is no doubt whatsoever. With her artistic and civic intervention, with her words, with her musical notes and her example, we are transported to a plane of freedom, of reflection, of restlessness, of action, essential for the advancement of our art and civilization. And this is truly what Oksana meant with her words, and so did our Esa. Kairos. This award for Helena Silva seeks to pay tribute to those who defend new cultural heritage. And so this heritage that we're talking about in this context is a much more musical heritage, or rather more than a musical heritage. We're talking about a number of values which don't only belong to Europe but to humanity, values which unite us, or which should unite us, fundamental pillars of our development and our hope: peace, freedom and safety. And for me, Oksana Lviv symbolizes this power of transformation that music can have in each one of us, of each musician, and of those who hear her words. And she does this with all her freedom and surrender, awakening feelings and sensations through sounds, oral or musical. Oh, isn't this the definition of music? Music which comes to touch or calm with a desire for a better calm. So thank you very much, Oksana, and thank you very much, everybody, for this evening.
E para proceder à entrega do prémio Helena Vaz da Silva.
To continue with the award, I would like to ask Yaroslav Liniv, the father of the laureate and the Minister of Culture and the President of the National Cultural Centre. I'd invite you to come to the stage.
Boa noite, boa tarde, todos senhores.
I'm very happy to receive this award on behalf of my daughter Oksana. I was born in Brodda, or rather, Oksana lived in Brodda, where she spent her childhood. Nowadays, the Ukraine is going through very difficult times against the aggressor Russia. So I can see this award as an award of solidarity for Oksana. Thank you very much, and for Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Pedimos agora a vossa atenção.
So I would like to ask your attention to the message, the video message of Oksana Lviv.
Greetings from the beautiful historical hall of Teatro Comunale di Bologna. It's a big honor for me to be a winner of Helena Vaz da Silva European Award. And it's a big pity for me that I am not able to personally to be in the beautiful ceremony organized by Europa Nostra in the Gulbenkian Foundation in Lisbon. I want to say a big thank you for supporting Ukraine. From the first days of war, Ukrainian culture became a main target for Russian aggression, and it demonstrates to us that the culture is the real fundament for every state and need to be protected. I want to thank you for big solidarity, and I want to say that I will do my best always to fight for humanistic values, for the values of democracy, and through my arts to do this world better.
Sua Excelência o Presidente da República, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa.
His Excellency, the President of the Republic, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, unable to be with us this evening, sent us a message that I will now read. If I have on a regular basis attended this ceremony, which was not possible this year, it is not only because of the prestigious entities that sponsored this award, so the grateful memory of Helena Vaz da Silva, but also because these two ideas, that of heritage and that of Europe, are essential in the times in which we live, and even more essential in the months that we have been living, because heritage is loyalty, memory, but also care and citizenship. Because when we talk about European values, we remember that Europe is, above all, a community of history and ideals, which includes the member countries of the European Union and the others that are not, are no longer, or are not yet. I congratulate this year's winners and congratulate the jury. The winners of the European Heritage Awards, Europa Nostra Awards, Museum in the Village, and the restoration of the Capuch Convent, and the winner of the Helena da Silva European Prize for the Dissemination of Cultural Heritage, the Ukrainian conductor Oksana Liniv, as well as the Serbian artist Diana Milovicevic, founder and director of the Research Center for Culture and Social Transformations in Belgrade. The award winners represent each, in their own way, the local and the global, conservation and innovation, tradition and the avant-garde. But let me highlight the distinction awarded to the director of the Teatro Comunale di Bologna and founder and artistic director of the Ukrainian Youth Symphony Orchestra. Being an award like the others for excellence in artistic work and dissemination, particularly among young people, this is also the award to a cultural ambassador of Ukraine, whose curriculum is linked to places we hear daily about, such as Odessa or Lviv. In Ukraine, as in former Yugoslavia decades ago, the destiny of Europe is at stake today. And for this reason, we value what European nations in their differences have in common. The struggle, in the literal sense of the word, of the Ukrainian people, we will hopefully soon to be followed by the continuation of the metaphorical but indispensable struggle for a geographical community of memories and values, a community in which, as is once again shown, Portugal and Ukraine have long been brothers and sisters. Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa. We close the session and thank you for your presence and hope to see you again in 2023 for the 11th Helena da Silva Award for the dissemination of cultural heritage. Good evening.